most likely also judges that Russia has a greater ability and willingness to endure challenges than his adversaries, and he is probably counting on U.S. and EU resolve to weaken as food shortages, inflation, energy prices get worse. Moreover, as both Russia and Ukraine believe they can continue to make progress militarily, we do not see a viable negotiating path forward, at least in the short term. The uncertain nature of the battle, which is developing into a war of attrition, combined with the reality that Putin faces a mismatch between his ambitions and Russia's current conventional military capabilities, likely means the next few months could see us moving along a more unpredictable and potentially escalatory trajectory.
The Pentagon senior strategist Robert Maginnis joins us now from Woodbridge, Virginia. Robert, thank you so much indeed for your time. What might Avril Haines be referring to in real terms when she's talking about a possible escalation and more unpredictability from the Russian side? What do you think that might entail? More personnel, different sorts of weapons?
Well, we've seen that Mr. Putin is willing to radically change. Obviously, he withdrew all the forces from Kyiv and put them into the Donbass, which the battle's ongoing. We also know that he is subject to further mobilization. Now, he's already called up some of his reserves that are already in the fight, but it's very clear he's going to have to do more. He's also going to have to begin to replace many of the tanks and other vehicles that have been destroyed by the Ukrainians using javelins and other types of equipment that's been supplied by the West. So Mr. Putin, I don't think has abandoned his original goals, and that is he still wants to take all of Donbass, Odessa, all the way down to Moldova, and would like to go beyond that as well. So don't count him out. I think he's in this fight for the long term. And of course, I think he does anticipate, as DNI Haines indicated, that the West is going to grow weary of the fighting and the inflation and all the associated issues, but so will the Russians.
Robert, you're mentioning the Donbass. If we see a map of how much territory the Russians already control, it's kind of a crescent shape, isn't it, from the northeast round down to the southeast. So here we are, because the analysis, and you've just presented it yourself, is that Vladimir Putin wants to capture as much of eastern Ukraine as he possibly can before he even begins to contemplate what sort of peace accord he might be able to reach with Kiev. But the thing is, what might persuade him to end the war? Would it be his military's achievements in taking this territory, or would it be possibly his military's setbacks?
Well, certainly we haven't seen internally, except at the very beginning in late February, early March, internal resistance. And a lot of people left Russia to avoid that, but those were mostly the rich people. Now that a lot of body bags have been returning home, people are beginning to get the word through a variety of mechanisms in Russia. And I think general domestic unrest about this ongoing war, which is having a significant economic impact on them, will begin to wear on Mr. Putin, even though his ambitions continue. So I would look for that. Now, he will put everything that he possibly can into acquiring that entire coastline, to include Odessa, so that he controls the northern part of the Black Sea and therefore controls much of what comes and goes to that part of Europe. So that's going to be very clear in his own mind. And I think his generals are going to be put into a very tough position to tell him anything other than, yes, we'll do that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the public reaction might change in Russia because of the mounting casualty figures, especially the families of fallen servicemen. But the thing is, historically, of course, Robert, Russia has been willing to take huge losses of personnel. But the one thing that seems to be different here this time is the amount of senior Russian personnel, generals, who are being killed on the battlefield. Why is that happening?
Well, that's an interesting question, and really this really indicates that at the tactical level, and we've known this for months now, at the tactical level, the Russians aren't as good as many of us thought that they would have been, and therefore they're having desertions, they're having combat refusals, And so the generals, who are really the driving force, are going all the way down to the tactical, the company, the platoon level, and really trying to motivate the young soldiers. Now, when they go, anytime a general officer arrives on a tactical operational scene, he's followed by a lot of vehicles and a lot of personnel. It makes him vulnerable to snipers, to drone attacks, and obviously signal intelligence. You know, the Ukrainians are probably picking up all sorts of indications that a high official is coming into their area. And so they're on the alert. Therefore, a lot of generals are being killed. And of course, that's hurting the Russian effort.
Really interesting to hear your analysis, Robert. Thank you so much indeed. Robert Maginnis in Virginia.